Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, we're going to be doing a mid-year reading check-in. So I'm going to kind of take some of the questions from like the mid-year book Freakout Tag and answer those, and also just in general check in on my reading goals for the year and how I'm doing at the halfway point. So without further ado, let's just get into it. You know what we're doing, I know what we're doing, so let's do it. Alright, so I figured the best thing to do first would be just to kind of review my reading goals that I set at the beginning of 2024 and see how I've progressed with those. I'm doing not great. I'm doing okay, I guess, but not as well as I wanted to. Now looking at these goals, I think I might have been a little bit too optimistic. But yeah, who knows what'll happen in the second half of the year. Maybe I'll blow everything out of the water. First and foremost, my overall reading goal for the year was to read 200 books. This would have been a personal best for me. I one year would like to achieve this. I'm not sure this year will be the year. I think I might roll this back to a more reasonable 150 or 125 because I think I'm on track to probably hit 125 if I read the same amount as I did. Hopefully I'll read a little bit more, but I don't know. Because right now I have currently read 66 books, maybe 67. Yeah, not halfway, not 50%. At the beginning of the year, I also really wanted to expand my reading a bit because I feel like I've just been in a Kindle Unlimited rut for a while and just reading a lot of romance in general when I really do love reading all kinds of things. So I did set a goal at the beginning of 2024 to read 10 classics throughout the year. I have not been doing so hot with this. I did read one classic earlier this year, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, but unfortunately that's the only one I've read so far. So I'm not sure if this will be accomplished by the end of the year. Maybe if I find some short classics, but yeah, I don't know. Speaking of expanding my reading goals, I also wanted to try and read 10 nonfiction books throughout 2024. I do think I kind of lack in reading nonfiction books and wanted to kind of remedy that a bit. And I've done a little bit better with this. I have read 3 nonfiction books throughout the year. So I guess I technically probably could meet this one. I probably could meet all of these, but this one I'm doing a little bit better with, and hopefully I'll continue to do better with it throughout the rest of the year. Another kind of stretch goal for me was that I wanted to read 10 500 plus page books in 2024. Pretty much the same with the nonfiction. I've read 3 of these. Not terrible. I do have a reading project planned where I'm going to read the longest books on my TBR, plus one or two of books that are going to be in my next Queer SFF vlog series installment are going to be over 500 pages. Actually right there, that's 7. So I might meet this goal. I'm gonna try really hard to meet this one. I think maybe I can do this one. Throughout the year, I also wanted to focus on reading more of the books that I already own, and I have kind of done this, but I have been buying new books that I've been reading. I haven't read as many TBR veterans as I would have liked. I set a goal at the beginning of the year to read 40 TBR vets, and so far at the halfway point I've only read 13, so not 50% of the way through this goal. Again though, I am gonna try and focus more of my reading projects on reading books that I already own for the back half of 2024, so hopefully this will improve a bit as well. I also set a goal to post 100 YouTube videos because I was thinking 2 a week. I haven't quite done this, although I will say I'm so proud of myself for how consistent I've been over the last 2 or 3 months. I really feel like I've made a true YouTube comeback, and I am very proud of myself, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that because the improvement is vast, and I just am really proud of the content I'm making, excited about YouTube again, and really I think that is the purpose of this goal. So I probably will count this goal as achieved by the end of the year, even if I don't post 100 videos. Currently right now I've posted 14, but yeah, I have so many that are currently in progress too, and I just feel really proud of myself and happy with how my channel is doing this year. So I'm not going to beat myself up over that goal at all. I also wanted to be more consistent on Instagram this year, and I did set a goal to review every book I read on my IG stories. I haven't done this with a single book. I am just going to go ahead and cross this off the list because it's just not happening and really just not important to me anymore. Maybe I think what was most important for me this year was to regain some consistency on YouTube, and maybe throughout the rest of the year I'll just focus on that goal, and next year I can add more social media into the mix if I feel like it, if I feel it's necessary. That's my reading goal progress and check-in. I do have a exciting video planned for this month where I am going to do a reading vlog where I'm trying to meet some of these goals that I set for myself. So yeah, stick around for that. Alright, now let's kind of talk about some of the questions from the mid-year freakout tag. Let's jump into that. And so the first question from that tag is the best book that you've read so far in 2024. Now, this was kind of a difficult decision for me, as I do feel like I've read a ton of amazing books so far this year. I really do. Like, my next video is going to be all the 5 stars that I've had in the first half of 2024, but I think my absolute favorite of all favorites is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This book is just pure magic. It's lovely. It's wonderful. If you don't know, it is a Regency romance between a trans character and her childhood best friend. Her child best friend thinks she died on the battlefield, but really she took that as an opportunity to live her truth. And now they're back in one another's lives, and at first, like, he doesn't recognize her, but he feels himself so drawn to her. And it really just was such a beautiful romance, just a beautiful story. Tension and conflict in it was wonderful, but then just the way the characters spoke to one another and treated one another and watching them fall in love was just so incredibly beautiful and touching and just magnificent. This was a beautifully written story. It was amazing. I tabbed it up. It made me cry, and it just is like everything I want in a book. It was so good. Now, the best sequel that I've read in 2024, I do think was Ravensong by TJ Klune. This is the second book in the Green Creek series, and this is TJ Klune's like Omegaverse werewolf fantasy romance series. Each book follows an individual wolf's romance, and there's like an overarching beating the bad guys plotline throughout the whole series. I read the first book last year, and I picked up the second book this year, and I absolutely loved it. Like, it was a full 5 stars. It was incredible. It was so emotional. I fell in love with the characters. The plot was just crazy. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time reading this series, and like the main character in this book, I'm going to talk about probably more in another question because he was just incredible. I fell so in love with Gordo. When an author can make you like fall in love with a character and root for them so much that you would like literally commit murder for them, like that's how I feel about Gordo. Right, the next question is a new release you haven't read yet but really want to. I do have a couple answers for this because I can't just pick one. So the first one I want to talk about is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend by Emma R. Albin. This is a WLW Regency romance between 2 debutantes who are trying to set their parents up, Parent Trap style. So this sounds so fun and right up my alley. I love a queer Regency romance, and also like the Parent Trap aspect sounds so fun. I've heard good things about this from my friends that have read it, so I definitely am excited to pick this one up later this year. I also really want to get to You Should Be So Lucky by Kat Sebastian. Kat Sebastian is one of my favorite historical romance authors, and this new release sounds wonderful and amazing. This is an MLM romance between a baseball player and a reporter. It's historical and set in like the 1950s in New York, I believe. So I definitely don't see a world where I wouldn't like this one, and I definitely will be picking it up before the year is out. And then I also really want to read Running Close to the Wind by Alexandra Rowland. This is an MLM fantasy romance involving pirates, and honestly, every time I go to Barnes & Noble, I wish there was just a shelf full of queer fantasy romance books. So anytime a new one pops up on my radar, it is like the first thing I want to read. So I definitely want to check this one out before the end of the year. And I'm also planning to read Alexandra Rowland's like most recent release prior to this one this year as well, A Taste of Golden Iron. I can't believe I haven't read that book yet. So that will be coming in a vlog soon. But yeah, I definitely want to pick this one up as well. And then next we're going to talk about my most anticipated releases for the second half of 2023. I have 3 answers for this question as well. So the first one I want to talk about is Sword Crossed by Freya Marks. This is an MLM romance. It's a fantasy romance, and I believe it comes out in like October. And same thing with Running Close to the Wind. Like any queer fantasy romance, I have it on my radar and I want to read it. And next, of course, is The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. This one comes out in just like a month, and I'm so excited to have a new Casey McQuiston romance in my hands. This is an MLM contemporary romance following 2 exes who take a European vacation together, and I'm just so excited for this. I can't imagine Casey McQuiston would write a romance that I didn't love, and also just the idea of like reading a summer vacation book in Europe just sounds amazing. And then last but not least, I'm also very highly anticipating Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. I've read a few Lex Croucher books recently and really enjoyed all of them, and this will be her newest one. It is a WLW fantasy romance retelling of Robin Hood, which sounds super fun. This one kind of sounds like it's going to be in the vein of Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, which I read earlier this year and loved, so very excited for this one as well. The next question is my biggest disappointment of the year. I kind of had trouble like picking one for this because I feel like a lot of the books that I like was highly anticipating I really enjoyed, and then I feel like the books that I didn't really rate highly were ones that I wasn't really expecting to rate highly because I was reading them like for that list video that I did, or they're just Kindle Unlimited books that those are just often like throwaway books for me. Like I always want them to pleasantly surprise me, but usually I'm not going into like expectations of them being the next great American novel, you know? So I was like, I don't really know what to pick for this one, but I do think that the one classic I read this year, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, did kind of let me down. I do think that I'm a pretty big Jane Austen fan. I gave both Pride and Prejudice and Emma 5 stars and consider them to be some of my favorite books of all time. So anytime I read a Jane Austen, I'm expecting to absolutely love it. And I did not absolutely love Sense and Sensibility. I ended up rating it 3 stars. It's basically about these two sisters who are in high society and then they lose their father and also kind of lose a lot of their money, and so they're like going to live with a family member in their little cottage, and they're kind of knocked down a station, but they're both kind of trying to fall in love, and their like love interests are like horrible people at first. And honestly, I was just kind of confused because I wasn't sure like who I was supposed to dislike, because I didn't really like the sisters very much and I didn't really like the love interests, and Jane Austen isn't really like writing likable characters, you know, but I just didn't find these books as like funny or romantic or engaging as some of her other ones that I've read, so I do consider this book to be kind of disappointing. And then my biggest surprise, on the other hand, was probably Satisfaction Guaranteed by Carolina Stutz Waters. I went into this book, I read it for that list video, and kind of was like, this will probably be okay, but you know, not that great. But I actually ended up loving it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and it's probably one of my favorite contemporary romances that I've read this year. I feel like it didn't have like the best Goodreads ratings, and I just like, you know, went into it with like middling to low expectations, but was blown away. I thought it was well written. I thought it was very cute. I thought it was very romantic. I thought it was very sweet. I thought it was very funny. If you didn't know, this is a WLW contemporary romance set in Portland, in which our buttoned-up main character inherits a sex toy shop from her eccentric aunt, and the love interest is the woman who like kind of works and runs in the shop, and they meet and butt heads but then fall in love. I thought that this kind of could be a bit trite too, about like, oh, the love interest teaches our main character to like let loose, and it really didn't take that direction, which I liked. The two kind of just complemented each other and had a wonderful romance and both taught each other things, and then it had a surprising emotional depth with our main character dealing with the loss of her aunt, who she really did love, just trying to figure out what she wanted to do in life and how to be truly happy. And I don't know, it was very, very satisfying read. I really enjoyed it and thought it was super cute. The next question on the list is my newest favorite author. I kind of had trouble picking this one as well because I feel like I've read from a lot of authors who I've read from before this year. I haven't read a ton of debut things, and most of the new authors that I've read multiple books from have been KU authors who like have had 1 or 2 hits for me, but most of the books are like 3 stars, so it's a theme. I had trouble answering all of these questions. I need to just shut the fuck up. For this answer, I chose K.T. Hoffman of The Prospects. This was a debut novel that I read. It is an MLM sports romance. They play baseball. Our main character, Gene, is the first openly trans character in professional baseball, which is another cool element of this book. And he has like a rivals to lovers romance with a teammate who comes in, takes his position, and forces him to play a new position, but they have to work together, and then they become friends and then lovers, and it's really cute. I was so shocked that this was a debut because it is just so well written. It's so beautiful. It's everything you want in a contemporary sports romance. It was fun. It had a lot of heart. It had a lot of depth. It had a lot of emotion. The romance built beautifully, and it was just a fun time. It made me cry, and I loved it so much. And I can't imagine that K.T. Hoffman will not be an auto-buy author for me now. I rated this book 5 stars. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. So I think K.T. Hoffman earns this position as my new favorite author. All right, now we're coming back around to my favorite character, my new favorite character of the year, and that is Gordo from Ravensong by TJ Klune. I know I already talked about him, but he is just this like wonderfully scrappy character who's just been beat down by life, but refuses to let life make him give up or give in, and he's just like an asshole on the outside, but soft and gooey and squishy on the inside, and that's just like my favorite kind of character. And I loved watching him like let down his guard and finally allow himself to like be happy instead of focusing on everyone else around him. And he's just the best. I love Gordo so much, like forever my favorite character. I feel like he's just up there for sure, and I really wanted to go to war for him. I wanted to hurt everyone who had ever hurt Gordo before. I just wanted to protect him with my whole heart and soul, and so that's how I knew that he was a new favorite character. All right, and now books that made you cry this year. So one of them was Raven Song by TJ Klune. I definitely was crying my heart out for poor little Gordo. Also, like I mentioned, The Prospects by KT Hoffman made me cry. Heart Song, the third book in the Green Creek series by TJ Klune, made me cry. A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall also made me cry. And I think the book that made me cry most of all this year was probably Here We Go Again by Allison Cochran. This is another favorite of the year, 5-star, immaculate, wonderful book. This book kind of involves a loved one, a parental figure dying of cancer, and I was reading it in public on a plane, and I was just bawling my eyes out, freaking all the people out around me, but I just couldn't contain my emotions, and I also couldn't stop reading it. It was so good, incredible, but did make me cry desperately. All right, the next question is a book that made you happy this year, and I think probably the book that made me the happiest was Gwen and Art Are Not in Love by Lex Croucher. I thought this was so fun. This is both a WLW and an MLM romance, following these 4 characters in like Elizabethan England. I think it's a King Arthur retelling. It's a little fantasy because I don't think the world actually exists, but I don't know. Does that make sense? Anyway, Gwen and Art are engaged to be married. Art is in love with Gwen's brother, and Gwen is in love with this lady Knight. These two kind of hate each other, but then they both discover that they're queer. They're like, we can help each other out. Let's form a pact. So they do. This book was just so fun and funny and like wonderfully campy and just cute and just a fun time. Like, this book is the definition of a fun time. Like, it just was so delightfully stupid, and I just loved it. And the ending was just so ridiculously stupid, but perfect. It was great. I loved this book, and it definitely made me so happy. All right, the next question is kind of like the thing you're most proud of this year. And I think the thing I'm most proud of this year is my like queer books book list video that I did, where I read all of the books from this Goodreads list and ranked them and rated them and told you which ones were worth it and which ones were not. I've been wanting to make a video like this for so long. I've always been so inspired by Chandler Ainsley, who like I'll say popularized, if not outright created, the idea of doing these list videos. So I'm so excited that I finally read a full list and could make a full video about it. So I love that video, and I'm very, very proud of that. The most beautiful book that I've bought this year, honestly, all of the most beautiful books that I've gotten have been because I subscribed to Rainbow Crate and Rainbow Crate After Dark this year. All of the books that they have sent me have just been insanely gorgeous, but I think like my absolute favorite that I've gotten from them is Mercy by Ian Harakami. This book is just gorgeous. Like, not only is the dust jacket itself gorgeous, there are sprayed edges on the book, and also the naked cover is fucking gorgeous. There's gold foil on the naked hardback, like what in the fuck? And then on the inside, like, you can't tell me that's not the most gorgeous book you've ever seen in your life. Like, it's incredible. That's my answer. And then the last question in this tag is always like what book you need to read by the end of the year, and I never have an answer to this question, or if I do have an answer, it's gonna be like 30-40 books long, and I just don't want to spoil my content for the rest of the year. So I'm just gonna say there's lots that I have to read before the end of the year. I probably skipped other questions in the tag too, but I didn't answer them if I didn't feel like answering them, so sorry. This is what you get. All right, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you being here. All the books that I talked about will be linked in the description. These are affiliate links. I earn a tiny commission if you shop through me. No pressure, no need to do so if you don't want to, but it's there if you do. Also linked in the description are other social medias if you want to follow me on any other platform, although I am most active here. So the best way to figure out what I'm doing next is to subscribe, like this video, hit the notification bell. You can also leave me a comment down below. Let me know some of the best and worst books you've read in 2024 so far. That was more efficient than usual. So I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.